there's my TikTok. So I am calling to order the meeting of the San Rafael Fire Commission for November 9th, 2022. Welcome, everybody. Do we know whether we have any members of the public? You're hearing nothing. I'm going to move on from that one, and let's go directly to the agenda. Has everybody had a chance to look at the minutes from last month that Tom graciously took? Any corrections or amendments or additions? Do I have a motion for approval?
I move we approve.
I second.
All in favor, raise your right hand, say aye.
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 Okay, that's approved. Moving right on. Donna, do we have anything from the Fire Foundation for
We do indeed.
this month? I'm betting that we do.
We do. So several items. We did approve this past meeting T-shirts that are of a military style for the firefighters to wear on public events. And Steve Mizrock of the foundation has.
There's one in the corner right there.
Yeah, there's.
Oh, good.
Yeah, she's
Good.
in it. There we go.
All right, so they've arrived.
Good.
Fantastic. So Steve Mizrock contributed 2,500 towards that. There were enough shirts ordered for both firefighters and family members to wear at public events. So thank you for sharing that. That was great. Also, fundraising is in motion. Steve Mizrock, along with Pat Kendall, have started a corporate outreach program that they're going to launch in December, which will be letters going out to designated corporations asking for donations to the foundation. So that's in process. It was approved at the last meeting, swimwear, swim gear to the tune of close to $9,000 that the foundation will contribute towards the Rescue Swimmer program.
Okay.
Adopt a Fire Station is still in the works, where Steve Mizrock is working with a list of neighborhood associations. And the plan is to develop a program where each firehouse can have an Adopt a Fire Station program in place that involves the community adopting their respective firehouse. And the last thing that was talked about is Len Thompson introduced a thermal image attachment to face masks that is new technology that the foundation is looking into to possibly work with in obtaining for the fire department. So lots going on.
Excellent.
Excellent. I've seen some articles on various heads-up displays that include infrared imaging, and boy, what a great addition. I have with my air packs, I got masks that have a heads-up display for pressure and what have you, and boy, that takes a lot of headache off firefighter or anybody who's working in the dark and really can't, see pressure meters and things like that. So that sounds excellent. One question, Donna, before we get off of this, will those shirts be available to commissioners?
I believe so, but don't quote me. And I also wanted to say the T-shirts that I took to the main station house have not all been picked up. So if you're one of the folks, if you're one of the folks that hasn't gotten a chance to get over there to get your T-shirt, please do so.
Okay, yeah, I admit that I am one of those that has not done that.
Well, you're
And-
forgiven. We'll give you a hall pass.
Okay, well, a bit later in the meeting here, when we get to it, we can talk about some visits to the Public Safety Center. So,
Chair Luckham, can I just interrupt for a moment?
You are not interrupting at all. You were simply speaking.
Thank you. If I could request Commissioner Johnson to reassign Thomas Wong as the host, we would appreciate that.
Sure. I don't know how I became in charge of this.
It was an accidental mouse click.
Larry, I will definitely ask the foundation about the military t-shirts to see if the commission will be so blessed as to receive one.
Okay, we appreciate that.
Absolutely.
Okay, did we get the host reassignment?
I'm trying to figure out how I stop being the host here.
Commissioner Johnson, it's Thomas. If you just go to participants, if you click the participants button, and then if you go to my name and click the little 3 dots, it should say make host.
Participants at the bottom of the screen.
Done.
Thank you. Got it.
I
You
have
got
one more question. Chief Sinner,
Okay.
do you have possession of all the t-shirts or just that one?
I just have the one that was provided to me. Bill Berkey had the box of t-shirts. Is there anything you want me to convey to him?
I'm going to check with the foundation first and then I'll circle back.
Okay, you can contact him directly at his email, william.berkey@cityofcenterfeld.org.
Perfect. Thank you.
He can give you an update, and thank you again.
Absolutely.
Okay, that's great work. We very much appreciate the work of the foundation. I think that, and I want, once again, I want to thank Len Thompson because it was his idea. He brought it to us from his days in Los Angeles and got right in on the organizing. And it's been a wonderful, wonderful thing for the fire department, for the firefighters. Much appreciated. Okay, so that being said, let's move right along. We'll go down with commissioner reports. I'm going to, as usual, skip myself to go last. That Nadine is not here. Tom is not here. So Ken, you are up as next.
Sure. Simple thing. I sent an email out to everybody about I don't know, 45 minutes prior to this meeting. I was attending a meeting. It's called Risk and Insurance Management Society, RIMS. It's like the insurance industry trade group. Insurance carriers are there, brokers are there, everybody goes there. And so at the RIMS meeting, they go through legislation at the end of the year. And there were a couple things that popped up that were pertinent to firefighters. SB or AB 1751, SB 1127, and I think SB 284. So there's a lot of information associated with that. And so I just wanted everybody to have the links so you can take a look at them yourself. It's something that as a fire commissioner, you should know because they are all surrounding workers' compensation associated with firefighters. Those guys put their life on the line. And so I think the insurance industry or, legislation tries to be as broad as possible. One of the big things, the interesting one was SB 284 for PTSD because it was so difficult. It's so difficult to get mental health providers now. And that was doing a lot for that. But I guess Newsom vetoed it because there's another study that's coming down the pipe and he didn't want to handcuff himself associated with SB 284. So, there's take a look at it. The chief could tell us more about that, I'm sure. And there's a lot of people probably on this call that know a lot more about this stuff than I do. But I thought it would be something that would be interesting to the fire commissioners.
And Ken, as far as you know, these changes apply only to firefighters and or public safety.
Yeah, that's right.
Correct. Okay.
Yeah.
So an office worker is not somebody that's needs to be concerned about it.
No, there was a whole bunch of legislation, but I just jotted down the ones that affected this group.
Okay, I appreciate it. Anything else?
Ken, I did not get your email.
Oh, I'll send it again to you, Donna. You're on the list right here.
Interesting.
I'll send it right now.
Thank you.
Yeah, Ken, would you also, well, actually, I guess I can do it, but just for the record, a couple of housekeeping things. Anytime something like that gets submitted to the commission, a copy needs to go to Catherine to be included as part of the record, the public.
Okay.
record. So, and
Got
while we're on the subject, sort of housekeeping, for those who are the designated minutes taker, please try and get the minutes typed up and over to Catherine as soon as possible after the commission meeting, so that she's not scrambling at the last minute to try and get them incorporated for the next month. So just a little housekeeping item. Okay, David, you're up.
Sure. I guess just two things. Number one is more of an observation around the neighborhood. It's great to see that there is a lot of mitigation of brush and fuel. I've just noticed a huge change in the past year, and more specifically the past few months, and just a lot of areas where you're seeing so much reduction. So that's really promising to see that, and I know it's a combination of a lot of different efforts that get to that point. So fantastic to see that in the community. And then also great to see that Thomas is on the call. So Thomas, I used to work with David on some of the social media postings that we would do to try and inform the community about fire safety. A lot of things were seasonal, so we had worked together to develop a calendar, and we're coming up on the holiday season. There's a really scary video that I think Larry even told us a story that he experienced that was very similar about how quickly Christmas trees can ignite and create smoke and cause death. So happy to work with you on that in any way, and I can resurrect the plan that David and I had talked about. I think it was around a year ago. So look forward to continuing the conversation with you.
David, where's your neighborhood?
Peacock Gap area. So one area that I just noticed, I walk my dog around the neighborhood a lot. So I just saw, and Bob, I think I ran into you over by this area once too, but right behind Glenwood School, there's a walkway, that pathway, and that's been completely cleared out now. So you can see things in some of the homes that you could never see before. That's kind of interesting. There's basketball court there. That's one area. Another is at the top of McNear Drive, where there actually was an incident, one of the residences there a couple of years ago. It was pretty significant amount of damage done to that house. It was an electrical fire.
Right.
But there's an open space between Lower McNear and Upper McNear, and then there's a side of the hill that goes down to the Night Drive area, and that's just been completely thinned out. And it's really good to see that. They've also, in that area, as you go down the other side of the hill towards Peacock Gap Park, that brought in the goats to come in and do a lot of cleaning. They've been in there a couple of different years, so really good to see that in our area.
Yeah, and that area, as Chief Senate will confirm, that area behind Peacock Gap and up China Camp and what have you, we go up there all the time on wildland fires, and it's a good thing to see the mitigation efforts. They won't really get the little grasses and what have you, but those are not the ones that necessarily get super scary. Very, very thankful to the Marin Wildfire Prevention Authority and to the voters that approved it, because I think a lot of the funding and a lot of the effort is coming through that pathway. So excellent to hear that we're getting actual results on the ground. Okay, anything else?
Yeah, that's it for me. Thanks.
Okay, Donna, you have anything you want to add other than?
No, thank you.
Okay, well, that means that it gets back around to me, and
Gets around to me too.
Stan. Well, okay.
I'll see you later. I gotta go.
All right, Stan, yeah,
I have nothing to say. No, I will echo what David was saying. I live in the Fair Hills area, which by definition is hilly. And we just had a Chipper Day event, which a lot of the residents participated in, and probably was funded by MWPA. Speaking of which, MWPA, that is, I was thrilled a couple of weeks ago to open up the IJ and see that they had taken out virtually a full page ad on fire prevention needs and their activities. And the little light went on and I went, well, you know, the commission in and of itself is not funded. I could stop right there to engage in buying space inside the IJ. But if we had ideas of things that MWPA might include in their campaign, we should set up a relationship soon with them to try and take advantage of that. My little lithium battery story of a week ago would be one idea that would make a good ad for the totality of Marin to get exposed to. So I just throw that out for what it's worth.
Stan,
And
to
I
that,
had spoken.
to
yes.
that note, the foundation could also be a source of, that way you make it the commission and the foundation together in an ad.
True.
yeah.
True.
So
Got
if there's something that you want me to take back to the foundation in that regard, by all means, put together a proposal and I'll carry it forth.
Okay, got it. I'll give you that thought and run it past Larry and see. I did have a brief conversation with Chief Senate some time ago about the parking box program and getting a hold of Justin, who's in charge of it, who is probably going to be the busiest guy on the planet. I am working with my neighborhood association, Fair Hill Property Owners Association. There are some people here who are a little reluctant to get on board, but we're convincing them one at a time. And just to say that that's in the works, and for those commissioners who are in parts of the city that have homeowners associations, if you're not involved with them, I would recommend you do get involved. Just as one, a connection for them to the department, and two, to probably for many answer some questions that are kind of lingering. That's the role I've fallen into. So that's it. And I'm done.
That's it?
Yeah, that's it. I can leave now.
Okay.
I have one follow-up on Stan's, and Donna brought it up, the lithium ion batteries. Every single quote that comes out from Chubb or Travelers Insurance Company, regardless of the size of the account, they're asking, do you have any exposure to these things? Are they on your warehouse floor? Are they on your manufacturing floor? It's become a big deal.
Yeah. That's
Well, I can, follow up on the follow-up. Anybody that answers, no, we have no exposure, is either lying or naive, because lithium ion batteries are everywhere. And in the little blurb that I sent out, there was a link to an article on a fire last week in Manhattan, which involved, among other things, a pretty spectacular rescue on a high-rise building where a firefighter rappelled down to rescue a woman hanging out a window from a unit that was on fire. And the cause of that fire was traced back to lithium ion battery, someone who was doing electric bicycle repair in their apartment. Not a great idea. We are all familiar with the, AA and AAA batteries. alkaline batteries and the old carbon batteries from years before. And there's a tendency to think that all batteries are the same, and that's not the case. If you've ever, for example, any of you who are of a curious mind, have ever opened up a 9-volt battery, what you found inside was 6 1.5 volt batteries that are just a miniature version of a AAA. That's how they get the 9 volts. And that's also true of the batteries that are in bicycles and the various skateboards and what have you. Most of those operate in the 48 volt to 60 volt range, but the voltage comes not because there's something inherent about a lithium ion battery that makes it high voltage. The lithium ion cells are nominally 1.5 volt cells, just like your AA's. They get to be 48 volts and 60 volts, or in the case of the power hand tools, your electric drill and what have you, it operates on 18 volts by stacking a bunch of cells together. And the same is literally true of electric vehicles. The Teslas operate on, I think it's 600 volts. And the way they get 600 volts is by wiring together a whole series of 1.5 volt cells. The inherent difference between lithium ion batteries and your old-fashioned alkaline batteries is that in charging and discharging, lithium ion batteries, if there's a slight defect in either the anode or the cathode of the cell, it grows a little thing called a dendrite, which is hair-like. And once that dendrite shorts between the anode and the cathode, you get a defective cell that overheats and can lead to a fire. Doesn't always, but it does sometimes. And anybody thinks that little battery cells are safe. There was a fire a number of years ago down at the extended stay hotel on East Francisco. It was in a little trash room right off the elevator lobby. That fire, when I investigated it, that fire was started by a keychain LED flashlight, tiny little thing powered by 2 really small coin cells. These are the things not much bigger than, in fact, it may be identical to the battery in your electric wristwatch. One of them was defective and they were tossed into the trash. And over a period of time, in close contact with other material, cooked off and ignited a fire. Fortunately, 60 seconds later, the sprinkler kicked in and knocked the fire down. Most of the damage was water damage. But batteries can be small and simple, but there's an inherent danger if they're not handled properly. And that includes disposal, because a lot of times we will take a battery out of a flashlight or a radio or something because the light begins to dim and you know that the battery is at the end of its life. Well, there's still enough residual power in that cell to start a fire if it's not disposed of correctly. So when you're dumping batteries, be careful about how they're handled. dropping them into a tin can is, generally speaking, not a good idea, because now you have conductive surface and a way for that battery to begin discharging and overheating. And lithium batteries are particularly vulnerable to this problem because of the nature of the chemistry. So that being said, as they say, in the little write-up that I sent out, I sent a little blurb. Chief White mentioned a month ago having met at Diana's retirement coffee, Steve Rutkowski. Steve was for many, many years fire mechanic for Centerville Fire Department. The job of the fire mechanic in fire departments is to keep the apparatus running, routine maintenance and repairs and things of that nature. Steve did all of that and a whole lot more. He was a genius at solving problems by designing, special things, brackets to mount something, or in the case of the battalion chief's command vehicles, he designed a whole system to add additional batteries and solar charging and an inverter so that they could produce AC 120 volt AC power out on a call if it was necessary. And one of the did everybody get a chance to look at that and the unique tool that Steve fabricated? This was a situation where he unfortunately, under the circumstances, had to work alone a lot of the time. And there simply were tasks that normally require two people. And Steve was resourceful. He figured out ways to do things when he was working alone that allowed him to get the job done. And as Chief Sinnott, I'm sure, will verify, Steve was a character. And the photo that I included, handing him his trophy with the wrench mounted, that's about as much of a smile as you ever get out of Steve Rutkowski. Not to say he wasn't happy to have it. He's called me 3 or 4 times to thank me and this, that, and the other thing. But that was just one of just many, many things that I saw Steve do over the years. Another thing that Steve did that saved the department a ton of money, all those air packs have to be tested and recertified every year. And I can tell you, because I own 2 myself, and I couldn't ask the department, I couldn't ask Steve to do them at the department's expense. So I had to take them down to Fremont. And the annual inspection and testing, assuming the cylinders didn't need to be hydraulically tested, was about $150 each. So Steve got himself trained on how to maintain all of those things, got the parts and the test equipment in, and just routinely worked through the department's supply of SCBAs, doing the required annual maintenance and testing, just as though it were an engine or a truck. And Steve was just telling stories here, but the Centerville fire has been unique in terms of having a number of individuals that possess characteristics that go way above and beyond what one would normally expect And one of those guys was Battalion Chief Rick Hewitt, who was with this department for a long time. Really terrific human being, but also was possessed of an encyclopedic knowledge of Marin County's water systems. And I don't know that there's anybody, maybe Bob, maybe you do, but I don't know anybody that has the kind of knowledge that Rick Hewitt had. I was responding to a call one day, a wildland fire in a hillside up the north end of San Rafael, and the first due engine had just arrived at the bottom of a hill and announced on the radio that they were establishing water connection at the hydrant. And a second later, I heard the click, and Red Hewitt came on radio and said, negative, just proceed all the way to the top of the hill where the K-rail stops you, and then look on the other side of the K-rail, and about 20 feet off the road, you'll find a wharf hydrant. It's not on the maps, but it's there, and it's got good flow, and it'll save you pulling 400 feet of hose up that hill. That's the kind of knowledge that's just irreplaceable. So, okay, enough stories. Back to, I mentioned last month, I guess, posting stuff on the Photo 50 website. Anybody had a chance to look at any of that stuff?
Mhm.
Stan is nodding his head.
Mhm.
So the Photo 50 project is one that I assigned to myself years ago in conversation with Chief Gray and talking about department history. I'd been asked some questions about department history and went looking for source material in the mezzanine of the old Station 51, where I found old log books and various other things. And one of the things that came out of the conversation and talking about all of that stuff was how to make things accessible, but also how to capture current history for the next generation. And that's how I started going out on calls, carrying a camera, documenting the activity of the crews, doing fire suppression, and it gradually morphed into visiting the training academies and promotional ceremonies and this, that, and the other thing. And a way of making that stuff accessible was to create a website, which I did, called the Photo 50 Project. It has a number of years of fire history calls, stuff that I did going out on fire calls, promotionals, stuff on the fire academies, etc. There's nothing on there that has anything to do with the investigations or anything that would be confidential or potential evidence in an arson prosecution or anything like that. But I've also added some historical photos from the 1800s that have been floating around for years, and a bunch of photos taken by Joanna, formerly fire admin clerk, who was doing a little snap shooting around the department for a number of years. I posted the other day the photos of Steve Rakowski, and while doing that, I'd come across one of the things that Chief White mentioned about Steve was that he had learned that we have a couple of antique hose carts from the 1800s. We do, they're stored, I don't know where they are now. They've been moved from place to place in the city buildings over the years. Steve Rutkowski was the guy who did much of the restoration. And I digitized a couple of snapshots from his collection of the restored hose carts. And in the process of putting it together, noticed that one of the photos of a 4th of July parade from the 1800s shows that same hose cart being pulled by a couple of firefighters. These were not horse-drawn. These were pulled by people. So feel free to take a look at any of that stuff. Comments and suggestions are welcome. If you have things that you think ought to be there, let me know.
They even got the fire dog in that photo.
Yes, yes, yes. And I put a link in one of our now longtime retired fire captains, John Williams, was an amateur historian, and he did a really nice write-up on department history, which is on the city's website. I put a link to that as well.
A lot of work.
Another piece of business. We have been meeting via Zoom for, seems like forever. I would like to get back to in-person meetings. The county has lifted the most onerous of restrictions. The city council is now meeting face-to-face. Actually, I guess they're using a hybrid system. I think people can tune in via Zoom. They've always had a system whereby the council meetings were broadcast on closed circuit TV. So you've always been able to watch a council meeting. I think now they have a Zoom system. In any case, I don't know. I don't know who would have to authorize in-person meetings. Chief, do you know, is that Chief White's purview, or does it have to go to city clerk's office or city manager?
It starts with Chief White. I will certainly bring this to his attention Monday when I see him again and let him pursue that. So yes.
Okay. By show of hands, anybody other than me interested in attending fire commission meetings in person? Okay, well.
Yep.
Okay. Well, then consider it, Chief, consider it a formal request.
Sure.
Not necessarily next month, but I think it would be really nice if we were able to start 2023, the January meeting. There is a conference room in the Public Safety Center that is set aside for things like that. And I think it would be a good opportunity for those of you who have not been through the Public Safety Center to be able to see it. So that would be a really good thing to have happen.
So Larry, I have a question in that regard.
Sure.
I'm a little bit unique in that ability to be there every month in person. Will there also be the capacity to dial into that meeting that's being held live?
Should be.
Yeah, that's a good question. And what I don't know is whether I suspect that conference room, since it's, it's brand new and it's set up with all the latest technology, I believe it probably has the capacity to have a Zoom camera and microphone.
Yes, correct.
Okay.
Right.
Chief Senate's just confirmed that. So that would allow someone to attend the meeting via Zoom if under whatever circumstances they were not able to attend in person. Any other questions?
So I'm going to back up to a question you posed about the batteries. Two questions in relation to what I'm going to call traditional batteries versus the lithium ion batteries. So I'm going to show my ignorance and say, are traditional batteries every bit as flammable as lithium? Obviously not, but are they also flammable? That's one question. And then the second question I have is, at the local firehouse, they have a bin where I deposit batteries that are no longer useful. Does that bin also take lithium batteries or not? Do we know?
As far as I know, and Chief Senate can correct me, as far as I know, there are no limits on, obviously, don't bring your golf cart batteries or car batteries.
Right.
But household batteries, as far as I know, there are no restrictions.
Correct.
And what about the difference in flammability between the two types?
What you're referring to as traditional batteries nowadays are mostly, this would be the non-rechargeable batteries.
Right.
Those are alkaline batteries. The
Yes.
chemistry of alkaline batteries is not as prone to ignition as lithium ion batteries. They don't develop the same kind of internal problems that lithium ion batteries, and we're referring to lithium ion. There's not one chemistry. There are actually 2 or 3 chemistries involved in what the public refers to as lithium ion. They are all problematic. Let me put it that way. Alkaline batteries, not so much so, and the old style batteries, what we would refer to as carbon batteries, they don't store much energy in the first place, which is why they were replaced. And I don't think that there are, as far as I know, there really are none left in use anywhere.
Thank you.
Okay.
Larry, I just had one point, and this goes all the way back to Stan's conversation about the advertisements. One thing to keep in mind if we do anything or partner with the foundation on that is online advertising is another option, even in the IJ. And there's some really cool videos that we can point people to. Fire Safe Marin did their, I think they called it Wildfire Watch. But a series of videos, they're really good and entertaining too. So something to keep in mind is that advertising doesn't just have to be the dead trees print advertising, but it can also be online advertising as well. And then with that, you can link to other things like videos.
Okay, I've got one more thing to bring up, and I'm going to let that be a segue into the chief's report, and that is there's an article in the IJ a couple of weeks ago that announced to the public that the Marin County Sheriff is withdrawing from the agreement under which his office provides fire and medical dispatching for San Rafael. Now, they also provide dispatching for other fire agencies and a couple of law enforcement agencies. I had a conversation with Chief White about that, partly because frankly, it took me by surprise. The arrangement that that shifted dispatching from San Rafael Fire up to the county actually went into effect on March 2nd, 2009 at 0800 hours. And I remember that very clearly because there was a fire call that was 37 Graceland. I remember where it was. It was a residential structure fire that occurred 2 minutes after that handover. And a lot of folks thought that that call might have been, a practice call or a test or something. Turned out it was not. And, there was no delays and we all went to the fire and this, that, and the other thing. Prior to the transfer to the county, San Rafael Fire had its own dispatch center. It operated for a long time out of the admin office at Station 51, and eventually moved to the building next door to Station 51, to space that we occupied for a variety of purposes, including dispatch. But our dispatch operation involved no sophisticated equipment, no, tracking of units in progress, et cetera, et cetera. The dispatch console was pretty primitive. And more to the point, we basically had 2 full-time dispatchers that were aided by on-duty personnel to cover San Rafael Fire and Medical Dispatch, 7/24/365. It was not a good arrangement. It was not a sustainable arrangement, and a lot of work went into negotiating the relationship with the county, which had just moved into the newly renovated building that the county bought up on Los Gatos that was hardened to must-survive standards and included a large communications section, dispatch, emergency operations center, et cetera. I worked with the dispatchers up there on investigation stuff, getting copies of the dispatch orders and what have you to include in the reports. But the new sheriff doesn't want to do it anymore because his personnel are overworked. We're not adequately compensating them for the services that we're getting. We pay them, I think the current year is about little less than $900,000. So the sheriff's office has been subsidizing us for a long time. However, I think my personal opinion is this is not the direction we should be going. And since part of the charter of the fire commission is to advise the fire chief, something that we really have never done since the fire service went professional decades ago. And this is a largely a political issue. I think we should be moving in the direction of figuring out how to consolidate things, not how to break them up. And I see this move as dissolving a relationship that probably almost certainly has been unfair over a long period of time. But that should be resolved by making it fair, and not throwing the baby out with the bathwater. And so we don't have the power to do anything, but express my concerns to Chief White. And one of the things I said was I would like to be included in the conversations that are going on. That's a difficult situation because San Rafael, as you all know, is the only department in the county that has a fire commission. Well, it's not technically true because Marinwood does too, sort of. And, we're not part of the operational staff, but Marin County has, and I don't think I'll get a lot of disagreement even from the professionals. We have way too many fire departments and police departments. With all due respect, Chief Senate, we have too many chiefs. San Rafael, the Marin County would do a whole lot better with 2 fire departments to cover the whole county, maybe even 1. And a whole lot less overhead. And that's been understood for years. It's never happened for political reasons. And I will say that Chief Senate was instrumental in years gone by in helping with boundary drops and operational agreements with San Rafael that made a lot of sense, combining the Larkspur Department's responses and San Rafael's responses, so that the closest available unit, without respect to what was written on the side of the apparatus, responded to a call. And I think that's the direction the county should be going, and I'm happen to be passionate about it. And I think this whole business with dispatch, I don't mean disrespect, but I think need to be some adults in the room, because I think it's a shame that the public safety agencies, it would be a shame if the public safety agencies aren't able to work this out amongst themselves. And if that includes, various ways of subsidizing the sheriff's department, or putting San Rafael personnel in their space, or however it needs to work. Having to create another dispatch center in this county makes absolutely no sense in my opinion. And with that, I'll shut up.
Larry, what's the timeline on the potential change?
My understanding is that the sheriff wants it made by, it's either the 1st of June or the 1st of July. I don't remember which. But in either case, that's way too short an amount of time. You don't make this kind of change. It took us, I'm going to say, close to 2 years to move from San Rafael dispatch up to the county. And part of that was building the new county center, but a lot of it was, dealing with all the nuts and bolts, and these are not trivial things. And the fact of the matter is, when we were building I was on the working group that handled the design of the public safety center in San Rafael. And when the early drafts of the plans came back to the working group, and it included 1,000 square feet to move the San Rafael Police Dispatch from City Hall to the new building. I objected, and I argued that San Rafael Police Dispatch should go up to the county center as well, whether done by county employees or whether done by San Rafael employees, that we should not be building 1,000 square feet at a cost of $1,000 per square feet. So $1 million for the four walls and floor, not including any of the equipment, not including any of the communications wiring that has to go in for dispatch, et cetera. And the police chief and I got into an argument in one of the meetings that was chaired by the mayor, and he had to step in and bring order.
What was the ultimate outcome?
I lost, and the police department has a dispatch center and a public safety center. So, but that was an argument that I could get into that the fire chief could not, because he has to work with her every day. So, but that's just, anyway, that's my opinion. I should shut up now and turn the meeting over to Chief Sinnott. Would you like to take the reins?
Sure. First, regarding the antique equipment, on a lighter note, these two items, these two hose carts are actually located,
Bristol.
yeah, in a garage at Gerstle Park. There's a standalone structure. We've got an echo here, hold on. Can you hear me okay?
Yes.
Okay. There's a standalone structure. It's a garage type building in Gerstle Park, kind of at the corner of San Rafael Avenue and Lodge Lane.
Mhm.
And
Yeah.
inside that building are these two pieces of equipment and a large fire alarm panel. And I don't think anybody's looked at this equipment for a number of years. And I went up there, this is kind of a coincidence, I went up there a few weeks ago, and it took me several minutes just to get into this garage, because basically the earth had kind of come up around the garage door opening.
Yeah.
And I wasn't sure what I was going to find inside, but amazingly, everything in there was in excellent condition, not even really coated with dust.
Yeah.
And so I brought the fire chief and our new deputy chief of operations up there a week or so later to look at them, and they're both very excited about antique equipment. And they were really happy to see this and that it's in such pristine condition. And so the thought is that we think that the smaller hose cart will fit through the double doors here at the Public Safety Center, and we thought about bringing it in and displaying it near the spiral staircase. And so that's kind of the plan. And something else that we've tossed around is actually doing like a brigade and walking it down D Street from Gerstle Park into the PSC, kind of in ceremonial fashion. So that's just kind of being discussed right now, hypothetically, or conceptually, but I think it would be a lot of fun to do
Great
something like
idea.
that, kind of bring it home. So that's kind of the plan, but that's where those two pieces of equipment are stored, along with this sizable alarm panel piece of equipment. But at any rate, moving along, and Chief White gave you an extensive fire chief's report that I don't want to read it word for word. I'll just kind of touch on each of them briefly. The first item, he talks about the Marin Wildfire Authority vegetation management. He talks about the evacuation ingress, egress risk management project with a goal of constructing an inventory of risk factors and dynamic models of wildland spread, communications processes, and transportation networks that can simulate a wildfire evacuation scenario. So that's kind of exciting. So that's rolling forward. He talks about COVID-19 guidelines. The chief has always been very concerned about new variants. firefighter safety, masking, keeping clean workstations, personal distance, things like that. So he's a bit concerned about the new COVID variants that have been talked about and are possible this winter, coupled with the flu. And there's also a nasty cold flu type illness that's going around right now. You know, if you don't know somebody who has it, you're lucky. It's just, and we're all lucky that we're healthy and we don't have it. It sounds like everybody here is cold free, knocking on my desk. The good news is infections are anticipated to be shorter in duration, less severe. Number of hospitalizations are not expected to rise. Chief White has provided a summary of current research and reports for your review in that report. Station 54, Station 55 renovations are proceeding along. Station 55 will be completed first. It's a single-story building compared to a two-story building, Station 54. It does not have an elevator, obviously. The elevator is a very complex piece of equipment. It takes a long time to get that, put that thing together and install it. So Station 54 will finish after. Station 55 could be completed mid-December, occupied possibly before the first of the calendar year, which is exciting. With Station 54 probably in February of 2023, but they're both moving along quite nicely with no major problems or issues to report. So that's very exciting to have these near completion. And I think the crews at Station 55 are excited living in that modular structure. They're on the property, not only being in the modular structure, but being in the construction zone and having the fire engine and the ambulance in a tent, I think is getting old. So they're looking forward to completion of that project. The Station 54 crew, though, is quite comfy. Dual housing at Station 52. They're in no rush to get back to their station. In fact, not only are they quite comfy at Station 52, but Engine 52 runs their calls in Zone 54, their medicals, in order to kind of save wear and tear on the truck. So their call volume has gone down. They're getting a better night's sleep. Everything's working well for the Station 54.
Good assignment.
The battalion chiefs, however, are holed up in a windowless conference room upstairs, an office. That's their combination office and bunk room. You go to sleep in there, you wake up and you don't know whether it's nighttime or daytime because there are no windows. So they're looking forward to getting the ambulance out of here and back to Station 52 so they can get their dorm room back here at the PSC. Some are in no rush. Others are quite eager to these projects wrapped up.
Once they're back home, they'll be just fine. Everybody will be just fine.
I will tell you that Station 54, my kind of the way I described Station 54 was decrepit. There wasn't anything nice about Station 54. It was in just horrible condition.
Especially after the flood.
Yeah. Station 55, on the other hand, the one thing it had going for it, kind of homey and right there. It's such an ideal location on Point San Pedro. But Station 54, oh boy, I'm sure they are just looking forward to having that station renovated. So that's going to be just great. And we just have to really give Chief Gray so much credit here. The vision that he had for the facilities, the PSC, Station 52, Station 57, and now 54 and 55. It's just, you can't say enough good things about Chief Gray, how he just pushed this program forward to fruition, and now it's nearing completion. So the next item on the Chief's report is regarding Fire Academy 25. This was an extended academy in order to try and make it more beneficial for the participants, the new recruits. We've had a bit of a washout problem with recruits with our past academies, and we wanted to try and eliminate that as best we could with more instruction, more opportunity to learn the various techniques, both on the EMS and firefighting technical rescue sides of what they do. And it required several of our firefighting personnel, and also our nurse educator, Katie Pinnell, who put in a week-long EMS module on paramedicine. Because a lot of our recruits, they're paramedics, but they have no experience.
Yeah.
They have school, they don't have practical. And that's where, unfortunately, we've seen some faltering with these new employees. So she saw that and said, please let me give them a week of intensive EMS. And that's what she did. And she's an amazing person, an amazing instructor, and I think it just did a world of good. So she was recognized by the chief and several other of our staff members who rolled up their sleeves, became instructors, taught modules, all kind of under the watch of Captain Nick Juicy, who was the academy, the overall instructor of the academy, the captain in charge. So the event that the chief held was to recognize these instructors, and it was very nice. The chief also gives you this look back in time, which is very interesting. We talked about history earlier in the meeting, and his report includes this building fire, which I wasn't even aware of back in 1969. A Firestone tire and brake shop, which also caused the near destruction of a San Rafael fire engine. You look at the pictures that the chief provided, and you assume it's a write-off, but somehow that engine was repaired and brought back into service, which I think is truly amazing. And that was the chief's report. Did I have anything else I wanted to pass along to you? You did touch on, of course, the comm center issue. That came as a shock. It was pretty much out of the blue. It was a notice to terminate with about 8 months. It turned out the contract itself had a 6-month termination clause, which for something like this is ridiculous. Chair Luckham touched on the fact that it takes a year or two or more to bring on a new communication center. And so this was a crisis that hit the chiefs head on. What's interesting is the Marin County Sheriff's Department dispatches fire and EMS for all the fire agencies in Marin County except Marin County Fire. Marin County Fire has its own standalone dispatch system, which is hard to explain or rationalize, but the way they've done it is that County Fire is a CDF contractor, and they're supposed to have a dispatch center that has a certain design, that does certain things that are somewhat different, and has a captain that is assigned to dispatch, who can basically oversee the dispatch operation for any significant incident. And so for that reason, they kind of kept their dispatch operations separate. Well, what's kind of evolving now is that the county fire's dispatch system is outdated. It's kind of like what Santa Fe had back before we went to Comm Center. And so the county fire chief, Jason Weber, who is an amazing person, has seen this as an opportunity to modernize his dispatch center and expand it to include all fire EMS agencies. So what we're looking at now is having something similar to Comm Center that's run by the Sheriff's Department, but this is going to be a Comm Center that's run by the fire departments, probably overseen by County Fire. And it's going to be a pure fire EMS dispatch operation. And this actually could be a very exciting opportunity. A pure fire EMS dispatch center can do so much more than a combination police fire. When you have a combination police fire dispatch operation that's run by a police agency, you tend to have police dispatchers who are dual trained to do fire, but really they lean in towards law. And so fire kind of loses in that equation. This will be a pure fire EMS dispatch operation that will enable us to do so much more, deepen and broaden the partnership. It's critical that we have a fire EMS dispatch operation that's countywide, not go back to these independent standalone dispatch centers.
Yes.
We have achieved basically, although we have separate fire agencies, a seamless operation in Marin County. All agencies work as one. We all have the same policies and procedures. We all have the same training standards. We have firefighters that can work in San Rafael, over in Central Marin. You can interchange around based on openings, vacancies, needs from the various agencies. So we're all acting as one now. And we've seen so many consolidations in the county, most recently Mill Valley officially becoming part of the Southern Marin Fire Protection District. And so we continue to work in the same direction. And although this was a tremendous shock, this announcement from the Sheriff's Department, it's transformed into what now appears to be an amazing opportunity that people are very excited about. So that's kind of a positive update on that.
Yeah, I can certainly see that if in fact it goes together that way, and
I'm sorry, I missed what you said. I've got a bad connection here. I hope I haven't been cutting out on you.
no, not at all. You know, I think this is potentially a great opportunity, and you know, there may even be an opportunity to provide some different routing of calls and what I think. I don't know how many of you understand that a 911 call in San Rafael is answered by San Rafael PD, San Rafael Police Department, their dispatcher in the Public Safety Center. If the call is medical or fire, they transfer the call up to, nowadays, they transfer the call up to the county comm center. And this is another one of the reasons that I was fighting with Chief Bishop, because, you know, those transfers take time. And when the call gets to the county comm center, it's handled by a call taker who then decides whether it's fire medical, or because they also handle law enforcement calls, law enforcement goes to a sheriff's dispatchers. Anyway, enough of my rambling.
Just a couple of quick items that weren't on the chief's report. On October 27th, we had a fire at an apartment complex on Woodland Avenue. The fire started in the downstairs unit of a two-story garden-style apartment complex. Middle of the day, it was cooking related. The occupants attempted to extinguish the fire unsuccessfully prior to calling 911, so there was a delay in our response. It completely burned out the lower floor apartment and caused significant smoke damage to the unit above, but the fire crews did an outstanding job of confining the fire to the apartment unit of origin. What's shocking about this event, nobody was injured, but what was shocking is in the 2-bedroom, 1-bath apartment on the lower floor, there were 9 persons living there, an extended family. The unit upstairs, which was uninhabitable because of smoke and heat damage, had 9 persons living in that unit. And that just kind of shows you, it's kind of a snapshot of the housing crisis, the housing issue that is out there right now, that in these 2 very small apartment units, you had 9 persons each living in these units. Miraculously, nobody was injured. And the rest of the building was able to be reoccupied. So let's see, on November 2nd, we had a single family dwelling fire on First Street, near the corner of D Street. It was an unoccupied residence. It looked like it was a hoarding type situation. The resident hadn't lived there for 2 or 3 months, an elderly person who we think was having some challenges. She left the home, ended up at her brother's house over in the East Bay, just out of the blue, and has been living there ever since. But the house caught fire early in the morning on November 2nd, and unofficially that fire has been determined to be incendiary arson, intentionally set. It's not official yet, but that's what it's looking like. The house was stuffed full of junk, but there were multiple sources of ignition in the hallway, which leads us to believe that the fire was intentionally set. And so the Marin County Fire Investigation Unit and the San Rafael CSI unit was dispatched to conduct the investigation, and we're awaiting the final report. No injuries. Fire did not extend to any of the adjoining homes. It was confined to the building of origin. But I wanted to report on that. And that completes the chief's report.
Okay. Well, I'm going to note for the record that the meeting was called to order at 4 o'clock. It is now 5:16. And I know I have been responsible for a lot of the time. And you will all, I hope, acknowledge that one of the things I have been trying to do as the chair is make the commission meetings efficient and no longer than is necessary. But in this case, I'm responsible for it running much past its normal time. Anyone have anything else they would like to add before I gavel this to the close? All right, that being said, at 5:17, my TikTok just tick-tocked. The meeting is closed. I'll see you all next month.
Indeed.
Thank you.
Everybody.
Bye-bye.